Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives in the world's leading global brands. Today, we're joined by Nicky Clement, who's the Vice President of HR, Organization and People Analytics at Unilever. Welcome to the show, Nicky. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Before we jump in, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself personally and your journey to where we are today.
I've always had a passion for the topic of diversity and inclusion. And Chris, when we were talking about all the many different topics I could talk about, obviously leading people analytics for Unilever, I get involved in all sorts of things from actually very detailed analytics with my team of data scientists, right the way through to employee insights, employee engagement, and many other metrics in between. But actually, one of the issues really close to my heart is diversity and inclusion. And as part of that, as many people will already know, we've been on a really long and tenacious journey to really drive gender equality at Unilever. And that really, I feel, is reflected in my own experience. I've actually been with Unilever for 22 years now. Wow. And as I like to say to everyone, that's not been by accident. That isn't laziness. I have genuinely, all the way through my career, looked outside, found other interesting opportunities, but always decided the right place and the best opportunity for me has been with Unilever. And I've had a wonderful career to date. And actually, I was reflecting recently about how long I've been part-time. I have two gorgeous boys. They are 12 and 14 now. And actually, since having my eldest son, Mark, I've actually been part-time for that period onwards, and I still am today. And actually having that flexibility, being able to balance both home and work, bringing up my children. I was also chair of governors of our village school for a while, and actually balancing both community, home, children, work, while still being able to be ambitious and actually be promoted and progress within the organisation and continue to see how I can challenge myself and deliver more and grow within the HR team within Unilever has been fantastic. So, as I say, this is a topic very close to my heart, and I do want to, make sure that we talk about this and we talk about, people who are senior in roles having that flexibility and being nurtured all the way through. And it was actually why I was invited to Women in Tech, which I think is how we got onto this topic.
Exactly. And was it common practice, just out of curiosity, in Unilever for someone in such a senior role like yourself to work from home 2 days a week, or was that sort of setting a new precedent, just out of curiosity?
I suppose when I first went part-time, we were probably starting on that journey of flexible working, and it was becoming more common. I think we see it across Unilever. It's very, very commonplace now, having the flexibility to work in a way that works for you as well as for the business. But, it's all about making sure that you're delivering, you're, obviously meeting what you want to deliver at work, and actually where you deliver that becomes less important. Although I will say, for the days I go into the office, the time with my team, the ability to collaborate face to face is obviously important as well.
How did that impact you and the family? Because as a new dad myself, we spoke about this off the show. It's something that always plays on my mind as well. How was that impact for you and the family?
I mean, it's been incredibly important to me. It means that actually I've had a very active role bringing up my boys. But what's really lovely is the fact my husband has as well. We both went part-time. So when our children were born, I did 3 days a week. My husband did 4 days a week. So actually between us, with a little bit of nursery and other support as well, my mum stepping in the early years as well, we had what we needed to make sure we could dedicate the time we wanted to our children and bring them up the way we wanted to. And also, both of us have had successful careers in our own industries while being part-time and actually being valued for who we are and what we bring, rather than putting a label of part-timer on it.
Did you find that you have a stronger connection with Unilever and the business because they've given you that support?
Absolutely. I think, it's something we talk about a lot in HR, is that psychological contract of almost the unsaid things about why you choose to stay, whether you'd recommend the company to a friend. It's that level of engagement that you feel with the organization you work for. And I would say absolutely, personally, I've always stayed for the right reasons. Actually, I've always stayed because I feel I've got the right challenge in the role. I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm developing myself and having an active contribution to the business. But actually, I love it here, and I continue to love it here. And actually, that psychological contract is a big part of that.
Yeah, I see it with your colleagues, right? When I speak to Tim or Lena or any of the other that have been there a long time, right? Each of you 10 years plus. 10 years is like a small amount of time.
Yeah, it's interesting actually when I collaborate with some of my colleagues, because obviously in people analytics, it's quite a new part of HR. And actually, when I speak to colleagues in sort of Uber and other businesses, actually they're celebrating 1-3 years.
Yeah.
And our long service awards are slightly different.
Yeah, I noticed it. It's not many companies out there that have that, type of tenure. You're looking at 2-3 years maximum. I see now with a lot of the leaders that I work with and speak with every day. But companies like Unilever, you have people that, because you're always been given those opportunities. For example, you taking over people analytics, was part of that journey as well. So very interesting. I know you have a short presentation that you wanted to share just to kind of give people some visuals. Do you want to jump into that and we can talk through in more detail?
And it's been great for me, actually, because my background was in maths and statistics. So having had sort of 18, 19 years in HR, I had the opportunity about 3.5 years ago now to move into people analytics and sort of looking at organizational effectiveness and organizational design. So actually, I'm bringing a lot of my academic background along with my business experience and HR experience to life. So
could have been a perfect fit.
Yeah, it's been great actually.
Did you ever think though early on that did you ever think that this is where you would be though, right? Because I'm sure looking back, you had no idea of kind of where HR it's gone for its own digital transformation, right? That we've seen and people analytics now is such an exciting space to be in. So I bet you were so excited to combine two passions.
And it's one of the things when I was chair of governors at a village school. It was fascinating to think about. We're teaching children who will be doing jobs that haven't been invented yet.
Yeah.
How do you prepare people just to be constantly curious and want to have a love of learning? And actually, that's what's going to equip them for the future. And when you think about that for children, you also think, actually, that applies to us all.
Not just the children.
Yeah,
we're in it now. We're in it right now.
Constantly, this job has only been around sort of anywhere really for the last 5 or 6 years. So actually, it's great to see the careers coming through and the options as they're changing over time. And of course, the future of work is such an important part of that.
I was thinking about it for Robin the other day. I was thinking what Robin does when she's older, that job probably doesn't exist yet. It's very highly likely that she's going to be doing something that doesn't even exist in the present time. So that's we've not been in for years, hundreds of years now. We've not been in that position where with the landscapes changed so dramatically. With technology that it has now. So it's going to be really interesting. And by the way, the presentation's up on the screen.
The slides are really just a reference for people to see as I'm sort of talking through. But what I would also say is there are some great reference articles on LinkedIn as well about Unilever's commitment to diversity and inclusion. So Alini Santos posts quite a lot. Lena Nair posts quite a lot as well. And actually, we've had some great credit lately. So I'm very proud to say we've had great recognition from Bloomberg on their equality index. So again, you can find out more detail about that on LinkedIn. And we are extremely proud to have been announced the winner of the Catalyst Award. And that's for our long-standing commitment to gender equality. I like this first slide because I really think we talk a lot about diversity. And as you can imagine, in my role, looking at sort of the numbers, the trends, what can we understand from data and what decisions can we drive from data? It's important to understand the difference between diversity and inclusion. Because diversity is, how many women are we recruiting? How many women are leaving us? Actually looking at some of those numbers. But inclusion is about, are they coming to the party? As Sheryl Sandberg would say, are they leaning in? Are they part of the conversation? Are they being included in the decision-making process? So I like the quote, diversity has been invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. So it really is about unstereotyping our approach. And you'll see a lot of the Unilever campaign about #unstereotype. It really is about including everyone, no matter their background, actually making sure that they bring their best selves to work and are fully included and their contribution valued. I get asked this question a lot because, Unilever has really focused on doing well by doing good for a long time. And we were one of the first big businesses to do that. And I'm really pleased to say, I think many more businesses are doing the same now. But I was actually asked the question by Linda Grattan at London Business School to say, is this a sort of NGO really? Are you being very altruistic in what you do? Well, that would be nice to think that, but actually there is a really sound business foundation. We are doing this because it's the right thing to do for the business and it's good for people. So it's absolutely a win-win situation. So there's been lots of research about the impact of gender diversity on financial performance. We've seen quite a lot if you look at things like the Edelman Trust Barometer.
Yes.
Some really interesting indications about the importance of trust from consumer choices, employees choosing to work for an organization. We're very proud of our employer of choice status. All of these things help because of the work that we do and the focus that we have on doing good as well. So actually, across the board, in terms of business performance, connecting with our customers and our consumers, innovation and actually the impact of a broader, better talent base, all of these things are incredibly important to us in the work that we do in terms of driving inclusion. As I've said already, I think what we're seeing, particularly with the younger generations coming through now, the expectation of business is increasing all the time. And they feel they need to be part of a better world for the future. So they are increasingly interested in our purpose as an organisation. And actually whether they feel they can thrive in the kind of organisation that we have.
It's an important one. We're seeing that more and more now. In the last
absolutely.
2 years or 3 years, I'm seeing even younger members of my family who are now entering the workplace. I'm always surprised when I speak to them. They're always like, is it aligned with my purpose? It's so strange for me to hear that from someone who's, as a teenager, who's telling me, is it aligned with my purpose and my values? Because when I was younger, it wasn't the case. I'm ashamed to say, but I just wanted a job. But we're seeing more and more now. There's the unemployment rates, lowest it's ever been. So people have choice. But also as a business, if you don't really align, your purpose and values, then you're not going to attract that talent. So it's been I've seen that shift a lot recently. Yeah,
absolutely. And actually, we talk about it being something that we see more in the younger generation, but actually, I think we see it in everyone. And again, a little bit #unstereotype. Let's not talk about the stereotype.
You are right about that as well. You are right about that as well. I think we always talk about the younger generation, but it's the same with anyone I speak to now. I think it's more, and people become more aware and educated around it as well. So even me personally, I had to go through this whole experience with our business of understanding what our purpose is, our values, and going through that personally, I learned a lot about myself and obviously about our organization and where we're going as well. So
absolutely. And I think we all want to find meaning in our work, which is fantastic. And I was just going to give a quick plug for the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, which I'm sure many people will have heard of already. I think this has been something we've been consistently talking about and consistently driving for in terms of improving the health and well-being for more than 1 billion people, reducing our environmental impact and enhancing the livelihoods for millions. And, actually really advancing the diversity agenda, really actually doing what we say we want to do in that space, and broadly supporting and promoting safety for women, making sure people have better access to training and skills. We're constantly looking not just at our own employees, but our extended value chain as well. So, this is something that's really, really important to us, and we want to be demonstrating that we're doing it as well. And I'm pleased to say that we are. I've talked a little bit about this already, but this is, why do we want to look at gender? And it really is about doing these things to also drive the business benefit as well. And it's really important. Our consumer base is predominantly women. If you think about the people who are shopping in supermarkets, shopping online, actually, they are still predominantly women. But if I go back actually even to what I said at the start about myself personally, one of the reasons that I have the balance I have in my home and work life is the fact that I'm not on my own. My husband actually supports me hugely by also having a very active role in the home. We have a standard joke. Yes, we both have an active role in parents' evenings and bringing up the children. He's very hands-on. But equally, I'll do the cooking and he'll do the cleaning. So I think actually giving men an equal role in the home life as well as the work life will help women have an equal role in the home life and the work life.
I'm the chef in our house as well, so yeah, I come over, but I enjoy it, to be honest. That's my role. I enjoy that more than cleaning.
Very good. And actually, I thought I'd just share this. Having told you my background is in analytics, I have to share a few numbers with you.
Of course.
So when I think about where we started this journey, so back in 2010, we had 38% of our management population in Unilever were women. Actually, that wasn't a bad place to be. Even when I talk to people about the journey we've been on and the population they have today, depending on their background and some of the different industries, actually, many people aren't even at the 38%. So, actually, we were starting from not a terrible base, but we were very clear we wanted to be balanced, and balance means 50%. So you can see, over the years, we have constantly driven to improve that ratio by making sure that we are actually having balanced slate. We're making sure that we have an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued, where people want to stay and thrive within the organization. So we've very actively looked at how we make those improvements year on year. And it helps that, so many of our non-executive directors are women. It helps that so many of our Unilever executive are women. So all of these things, help with the role models as well. Mm-hmm. That's something that we've seen more and more.
Yeah. What are some of the steps that you took to move the needle? That's an incredible achievement.
Thank you.
That's like over 10% movement from there. What were some of the things that you could share that you did? I suppose you can jump into it right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I said it and then I saw the slide change and I was like, okay, so here we go. You're going to tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to start actually with what I was talking about before in terms of promoting the role of men and women in everything. So one of the things we've done just last year now is we increased paternity leave for men to 3 weeks across Unilever. And probably living in the UK, 3 weeks doesn't sound that different. It's a little bit more than the average, but
it's an extra week though, right?
It's an extra week.
It's an extra week, so this is a lot.
And actually all around the world, actually having that common standard, saying it's important everywhere is a big deal. And, we're very proud to support the shared parental leave in the UK. So I think the more that you get active involvement from both parents is really helpful.
It's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been able to really use that by understanding our people as human beings, actually what's important to enable everyone to stay and thrive. And we'll use that sort of obviously talking to people. That's a really good start, but also using the data that we have to understand actually where we have hotspots where perhaps more women were choosing to leave. What was behind that? How can we enable them to feel that they want to stay? How can we look at when we're recruiting that we have balanced slates? How can we make sure we have the right coaching and mentoring programs in place? So really, and you were asking me at the start about flexible working. Absolutely. That helps as well. So, parental leave policies, flexible working, giving people the role models they can aspire to. We had a lovely program called Game Changers, where lots of people could nominate the people they felt were making the most difference by being the role models they aspired to be, making them feel actually it is okay to request to work part-time. It is okay to request flexible working. I can see they're choosing to, go and make that parents' evening, even if it means leaving work an hour early that day. And actually by showing people by example, that really, really helps. That was a great game changer program where we let people, nominate the people they saw doing it and really showcase those role models.
It's important. I had a quick question on LinkedIn, if you don't mind me asking. Bass asked, have you found the need to change the message across different cultures?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it's a little bit when you talk about hashtag unstereotype.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get us in trouble, Bas. You see what he means, though, right?
No, I absolutely see what he means. But I was just correcting myself before I then made a huge stereotype about one particular region of the world or another. I think what's important is the inclusion piece. So actually asking people wherever they are in the world, whatever gender they are, whatever background they come from, it's about understanding what works best for them, what works best for them to feel included. And the best way you can do that is actually talk to them and understand, what's driving the motivation, and getting in earlier. If something happens and you're seeing hotspots where perhaps you are losing key talent in particular locations, why is that? What is behind that? And actually having more information so you can make better informed decisions. So yes, that might change it might change for lots of reasons. It might change by life stage, or it might change because someone's just come back from, starting a family. It might change because you are in a different part of the world. But actually it's about understanding people as individuals and what they need. So it might. No
problem. Bas said, leave it to me to get someone in trouble. So, it's all right, Bas, we forgive you.
No, it's a good question. It's actually, what's lovely is, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but I'll put it on LinkedIn afterwards. There's a lovely bias test that you can do for free. And anyone who thinks they have no bias will be wrong. They're
the ones with the bias, because there's a reason it's called unconscious bias.
Exactly, you need to be aware of your unconscious bias, and it's a little bit. Can you catch yourself? And I do it a few times, and I will sort of almost have in the back of my mind hashtag unstereotype before I do it. So as I'm about to launch into a particular point of view, but I will say, let me give you one example for Bas. In Europe, for example, part-time working is far more commonplace. So yes, that's true. So you might see more of it, but actually that might be about local norms and what people expect. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we can't keep an open mind everywhere. So I think I've talked about quite.
We've gone through half the slides already now without realizing.
In the world today, we talk a lot about big data. We talk about access to large amounts of data, and what do we do with it? It's a little bit that old saying, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Actually, we all have a lot of data now, but really understanding what that data is telling us, really testing that we understand what that data is telling us is so important. So, one of the things that we do in my team is make sure that we work with the business partners. So we work with the HR teams, with the finance teams in the business. And we really get them to start with, what's their hypothesis? If they've spotted a trend of, let's say, not being able to find a balanced slate in a particular function or country, if they're finding some difficulties, or if they're finding an issue with people leaving, what's their hypothesis? What do they think is behind that? Because, with a whole world of data now, you almost need to know where you want to start looking.
Yes.
So actually, you've got a hypothesis, and it's actually an approach called the scientific method. And you can actually take that hypothesis and really explore it. But then take a broad approach when you investigate. Look at the obstacles and the opportunities to improve. And we've also had some wonderful success in using academic partners to help with this. Obviously, we have to have all the right confidentiality agreements in place. But a lot of academic partners are very keen to work with us, in terms of having enough data to do the academic research that they want to do. So we've worked with Harvard, we've worked with a lot of the UK-based institutes as well. So King's, LSE on a variety of different projects in this space, and UCL as well. So many different universities. But actually, the work we did with Harvard was about looking at promotion rates, and looking at the gender balance of promotion rates, and really highlighting to leaders in areas we were wanting to drive gender improvement, particularly at senior levels, really just raising their awareness in the choices that they're making. Because obviously, with a balanced slate of the choices you make on a case-by-case basis, people will take the right decision based on meritocracy. But when you look overall, if the decision is always coming out with a gender bias, you might ask, we've got to work harder to get a higher quality balanced slate. We've got to look wider externally to really find the strong balanced candidate set. So it just encourages you to think about the choices you're making. Also thinking about, am I putting requirements in a job that are making it harder for one gender to look at rather than another? So it really just encourages us to take a broad approach in understanding all of the different variables we're looking at, and actually using a variety of data sets. There's many different data sets out there, and I talk a lot with my colleagues in marketing and other areas of the business, and they all have to pay for their data sets, whereas I have the beauty of working internally, and our employees
never thought about it like that before.
Yeah, absolutely. And they take part in annual surveys, and we can understand trends, obviously preserving their anonymity. Really important that we have a very strong ethical approach, but making sure we've got anonymity in groups of 8. But what can we understand from the data sets we have? What can we understand from what we already know that our employees are telling us? And then most importantly, it's important to be able to tell the story we want to tell and really bring that opportunity to life, so action can easily be taken based on the insights that we have. Because I think one of the things we've seen, if you have a lot of data and you are presenting a lot of different points back in terms of what you found and really wanting to demonstrate your intellectual rigor and the approach.
It can work against you, right? It can work against you at that point.
It really can, because actually people want to understand the so what and now what.
Yes.
What do I do based on what you've told me? And what are the salient points that I can actually test and really explore further? So yes, that was really the approach that we like to take, and where we've seen real benefit, particularly in improving gender diversity in Unilever.
Love it. In terms of the people analytics side, is there any particular other projects you could share, findings that you could share with us that kind of stand out to you? I know you've done so much work, and putting you on the spot here. Other examples you could give of how you've used people analytics in diversity and inclusion?
Oh gosh, so all sorts of things. And as I say, it is probably those spotting trends early. And we like to work in partnership with the people in the business. So actually spending time with them, understanding, where we're not getting the full representative in every part of the organization that we want to see. So actually making sure, almost in a cell by cell approach, so by seniority, by location, by function within the business, and actually really helping support getting that balance. And of course, balance means both ways. So
yeah.
That's something we're really keen to pull through, and that is anything from as simple as a gender diversity dashboard. So we make it really easy for the HR business partners month on month to see which direction is my gender diversity going in, what is driving that. Is it about people leaving us? Is it about people starting? Is it about promotion rate? So really understanding all of the levers so they understand the underlying driving force, which I think really helps.
If there's sort of one piece of advice you could give to other leaders that are on their journey, because as you said, this role's only been around for about 5 years, let's say.
Yeah.
And so many businesses are just new to this journey. What advice would you give to them? And then lastly, where's the best way for everyone to get in touch if they want to reach out and say hello?
Role model and be the change you want to see in the world. I know that's a Gandhi quote, but I think that's so true. And I think that's really important. And in terms of getting in touch with me, please feel free. You can contact me through LinkedIn, and I'm very happy to engage and share more about our journey.
Amazing. You're going to get a lot of messages on LinkedIn, so just prepare yourself.
That's great. It's great to connect. I'm always interested to hear what other people are doing as well. We haven't got everything right yet, so it's always great to learn from others too.
Yeah, this isn't there's no, it's not a month, a week, month, year. It's just an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us, especially as you're at home. So even more so taking the time out to join us. And for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. As always, if you can watch this on demand, if you've just tuned in now, also you can head over to www.hrdleaders.com/podcast, and you can subscribe to the platform on any of your favorite platforms: Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, everywhere. We're everywhere. Apart from that, Nicky, appreciate you joining us, and I wish you all the best until we next speak. Okay.
Wonderful. Thanks very much, Chris.
Bye.